Hey, welcome back. Another day, another vlog. Hope you're well on this Wednesday. It's good to be home. Just got a little bit sorted. Got the studio set back up again. I have cleaned up since last time, so I hope you've noticed a bit. It should be a little bit neater, I'm thinking. So yeah, I'm feeling a lot better about it. It's a lot neat and tidier than last time I was home. Yeah, good night last night. Obviously some huge things happening. Obviously, the big one is Sony, so I'm going to get straight into that. The A7S3 was released last night at 10 o'clock our time here in Perth. It wasn't a release like I was thinking. It was just basically I guess like the Canon, similar to, it wasn't like the Canon where they had people there explaining all the different stuff and different photographers. This was basically just a promo video, so not a... After 5 years wait, you think it would have been probably a little bit big of a bit more of a deal, and had some people there to some photographers and stuff to get there and sell it to everyone. But I think it's sold for what it is. I think it's going to sell itself. Most of this, I think probably 99% of the specs were out anyway. There were some images leaked the day before. They sort of come out. We talked about that yesterday, so they were all pretty darn accurate. And there was instantaneously, as soon as 10 o'clock hit, there was about half a dozen reviews up. Yet again, and there's one thing I didn't notice, I don't know if you notice these things, but yet again, that's the second massive launch where she had the first video out, like a minute, probably 20, 30 seconds before anyone else. Somehow she gets it up first every time. MKBH is the other one that always somehow gets in there first. But yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. That's just something to notice when you see they all go up at the same time, but you see who's the first one, because obviously first in, best dressed, and somehow she's got it worked out to make it happen, and she got in again, so that was pretty cool. Look, the cameras, I think that I'll go through an overview before we go through the specs and run through everything and my thoughts. Basically, it's a video camera. It's, from all reports, I watched multiple different people talk about it. I looked at Peter Lindgren. He does his whole B-roll and his whole channel and video based channel with the Sony brand. He's been using Sony for a while, since he started. He's gone huge. I think I started watching him about 50,000 followers about a year and a half ago. Now I think he's at 350,000, so he's done really well. He's a big fan of Sony, and they've obviously supported him, which I think was really cool. And so he was really impressed with the video features. I did ask him a question, and he got back to us, which he's pretty good at doing, so that was also good. Jared Poland, I definitely go to him because he's pretty good at giving an unbiased, sort of a straight down the arrow photographer's sort of a viewer thing. And he was pretty accurate in that. And I think from the ones I watched, and who else did I watch? There was someone else I watched. But basically, between pretty much all of Potato Jet, pretty much all of them were saying that video-wise, it's fantastic. Photography-wise, and Jared Poland, I think, as probably the photographer of the bunch, he said, you're not going to buy this as a photography camera. The Canon or the Nikon is 10 times better photography-wise. Now, it is a low-light camera, so I guess if you're doing astrophotography or night, you do a lot of night shooting in the city and stuff like that, then yeah, it's awesome. But for $5,700, I think it is on at the shops, that's an expensive nighttime camera. You can find a lot better cameras that do everything as well as good nighttime. And I think for that you're looking at the same sort of money as the R5 or Elite, and more than an R6. I think you can definitely go on R6 if you're looking for a photography style camera. Video wise, it was pretty exceptional that they went the 12 megapixel route to give it the bigger pixels to get that low light in, and that was also to help with cooling and all that. They have gone 422 codec as well, which is interesting. I'll talk a little bit about that later. Pretty much everything in there, as you've seen. It's got the sensors. It's got 92% of the screen covered for your autofocus points, which is really cool. And there's 759 of them. So autofocus, Sony, we all know Sony's awesome with autofocus. It does all the different speeds. We've talked about that already. The ibis isn't as good as the R5, so that's going to be the same as the Canon R6. So if you, even with that extra stabilization they had on, it just didn't perform anywhere near the Canon. So the stabilization is not as good as what they're sort of reporting. Now, I don't think the guys that used it had a stabilized lens on. I know Jared Poland on Frono's Photos had it. He may have had one on. I know Peter Lindgren didn't have one on. He got his best, but it was still pretty average. That colors and all that sort of stuff was like it all depends on what you're used to, but like it's definitely a brand new camera. It's got all the good stuff in that regards. It's got the big HDMI port, so that's a big win for those guys doing video, so that's really cool. I think probably the only disappointing thing I thought out of that side from the video side was the fact that some of the high-end ones, like your 120p and 240p frames a second, I'm pretty sure they had to go to external recorder. So you have to pay for another $2,000 or Australian at least for an Atmos 5, just so you can plug that onto it so you can record those higher frame rates, which doesn't really make sense that you advertise something that the camera can't do without another bit of equipment. I don't know how you're allowed to me that's false advertising. If the camera doesn't do it without something else, then how can it do it? But I think that's the camera world and that's how it is. And if you're paying $5.5–6 grand for a camera to shoot video, a photography camera to shoot video, then I'm sure you've probably already got those Atmoses and screens there anyway. So it's probably not going to be a real bother for the people that are going to buy this anyway. They're professionals. They're going to have all that gear that they can just bolt straight on with the cages and the whole works. Other than that, they look really good. It's $3,500 US, so I think it was about for them. So, and it worked out. I did look at DigiDirect. I think it was $5,700 Australian in the shop. So that's a huge amount of coin for anyone, and basically to shoot video. The stills, I don't think are going to be anywhere near as good. You can get an R6 that's going to have better still performance. The low light, yeah, it's fantastic at low light, and that was one thing I was impressed with, the low light. I think Potato Jet took it camping to do one of his videos, and he showed that he could have his iPhone brand new iPhone 11 Pro, and you couldn't see anything, and then put the camera up with a 2.8, not even a 1.4 lens, and he could see the whole area. It was like amazing, and he could even see the partially see the Milky Way, and that's outside LA, so like obviously lots of light pollution. So on that regards, I thought it was super interesting, the fact that it could do that. So I guess if you're an astrophotographer and you needed a second camera to do your vlogs for you, so maybe like a Shane Bloom or some of the other big boys, and you're a Sony, this might be a great camera to run your vlogs, because you can do your night shoots. You're going to need minimal light and still get a clear picture, so you can do your talking head stuff and talk to your followers and stuff like that. So in that regards, I think that was really super positive. The other big positive out of it was the cards. It obviously runs two lots of 2 cards. You can run 2 SDs or you can run 2 CF Express. Now, they're not your normal CF Express that you think of, like the R5 Canon. These are the Type A ones. They're smaller, so they're a little bit smaller than an SD card, and they only do 700 megabyte a second, where the CFS Express in the Canon range, the big ones, they run 1600 megabytes a second. So obviously they're $700, but the good news is those little A ones, even though they're not as fast, they only cost a couple of $100, so a lot cheaper to buy as well. So I think Sony did a really good job there. Again, I don't know why when it has a USB-C slot, why they didn't do what Blackmagic did and allow you to plug in a USB-C SSD drive and record straight to SSD, so you don't need the 4 cards, or all you need is 1 card in there as a backup and then record straight to SSD, which you can mount straight to a cage. Tickety-boo. I think that's the way forward. I can't, for the price of a CF Express $200 to $300, I can buy a 1 terabyte SSD from WD or a Samsung T5, have that on the side, have 500-600 megabyte a second, which is going to be similar to the CF Express, but I've got 1 terabyte on there, good to go. I can then plug that straight into my laptop and then edit straight from there. I don't even have to worry about having a card reader or anything else. The card's just in there recording for backup, and you can just reformat it after the end of your shoot once you've exported that into your laptop. So that's my thoughts on that. I think they did a great job what they did, but I just don't see why we're still using SD cards when portable SSDs are so ridiculously cheap and so much more better than an SSD, than an SD or a CF Express card at the moment. Even with the T7, the new T7s, and you can get the WD, they do up to 1 gig a second now, so they're definitely something that should be getting looked at. You get a power port with the USB-C as well, you can power it, but also if you get maybe they can do a firmware update where you can then record straight to SSD, that would be amazing. Other than that, so that was the positives. Like, it's a fantastic video camera. It looks amazing for the price. I can't afford one. For the guys going to get it, I think it's everything they wanted in the video realm. I think it's definitely going to be a YouTube staple, a vlogging staple for years to come. It's definitely video-centric wise going to beat the R5. The R5 is struggling with the codec and also the temperature, and that's the other thing. They're using 422, but I think there's an option for 420, which is an easier one to export and use. That 422, you're going to have to transcode and stuff around with proxies, which is a pain. I really don't want to have to deal with that. I can't afford to deal with it because I can't afford the cameras, either the Canon R5 or R6, but that 422, they need to work something out, because if it's that hard to do and you've got to make a proxy, which can take overnight to make the proxy to start the edit, that's just insane and just stupid. We definitely need to work something out there with that codec so people can actually use it to edit, I guess. Now, the only other thing, look, I've asked a few questions. I've never really got a straight answer. I asked it of Peter Lindgren last night. Why do we buy a photography housing to film video? You can obviously, and my understanding is, okay, great, I've got a hybrid like the M50. It's a hybrid. It takes great photos. It takes great video. For me, it's perfect for what I can do. It's one camera. I chuck my lenses in. I can do whatever I need to do. Photography and that's why I need the lenses. And then I can film video on it as well. In the bag, backpack, go. But if you're going to buy an A7S3 for $5,700, you've got to put lenses on there. You're not going to put crappy lenses. You're going to get the good ones, either the Sigmas or the G Masters. So there's another $2,000 or $3,000 that hopefully you've already got, but yes, it's still part of that package. And all it's good for is video. If that's all you do and you just do video, then fine. That's fine. You'll have everything else you need. But if you're a photographer and a video and you're going to pay $5,500 for a camera that's only good for photos, I think that defeats the purpose. Why don't people just go straight to a video camera? There's some fantastic camcorders out there. They're all 4K. And look, just for an example, I looked up the Sony. I went to the Sony, the FDR AX700. It's a 4K. It shoots in 4K HDR. Insane. $2,000 brand new on eBay, Australian. So I could buy 2.5 of them for the one A7S3. It's Now, the only thing I could see on there, once you go up to the next level to the Pro, you get to a 10mm to 1000mm. I didn't get a price on that one, but I did actually. That was about the same, exactly the same price, about $5,500–6,000 as the A7. But that had 10mm to 1000mm zoom. So you only need one lens. People said, oh, you need interchangeable lenses. Do you? Because there's Zeiss lenses. I don't think you really need to. You film a video, you don't need perfect pixels or bokeh. That's going to be all built in. So the AX700's 29mm to 348mm, 35mm equivalent. So that's just insane. Like it's not super wide. It's not a 10mm, 12mm, 15mm, but 29mm is not bad for video. This is video now. You can place it away. It's got zoom. It's got autofocus. It's got built-in ND filters up to ND64. It'll do 1,000 frames per second. Now, people are freaking out about 120 and 240 when these handy cams can do 1,000 frames per second. Weight-wise, it's, I think the A7 is 700 grams. This 4K HDR thing, 700 from Sony, and this is retail, not looking, this is eBay. It's only 1,000 grams, another 300 grams, and you've got this 4K fully committed video camera at nearly a third of the price. 2.8 to a 4.5 aperture. And size-wise, it's a little bit longer, so 274 compared to just the body of the camera. That's not including whatever lens you're going to bolt onto it. So I think size and weight-wise, it's really pretty much a muchness. It'll fit in your bag. You can take this with you and shoot the same as you're going to shoot a Sony, the A7. I just can't understand why, if you would pay that much money. I know it's the thing, and that's what people do and all that. But if you're just going to pay all that money for a video camera, wouldn't you be better off getting a proper video camera and getting all the proper video codecs and everything in there? That's all I'm saying. I find it weird. I'd love to get some answers. If you could explain to me why going to a video camera is not an option when all you're buying the A7 for is video, because the photography side's pretty much useless, and no one's going to buy it for the photography. That's pretty much evident through everyone I watched. No one was interested in it at all for photography. They all go Canon or Nikon. So it's a pretty tricky one, and I thought it was a bit weird. That's the big thing I got out of that show last night was why. It was really a big why. Now, we're going to shoot over and talk a little bit about the Canon R5. That 422 is the issue, and a bit of a hardware issue. It's a new codec, so basically it's using the CPU and it's not using the graphic card at all. So it relies on that CPU and it just bogs that down and just crushes it. That's why I couldn't do it. Max Yurev, who found that and was looking at that and talked about the codec, someone mentioned to him to try an iPad Pro. It's got that ARM chip in it, and you would not believe it, where that is $10,000 to $15,000 Mac Pro US with ridiculous specs that couldn't play the 4K 60 and struggled with the 8K. The iPad played it perfectly, even with LUTs on and everything. Was ridiculous, just played it perfectly. It's something about the Apple Silicon that can handle that codec and decompress it so it uses the inbuilt graphics that's built in with the CPU it lets it enable to do that. So that was just insane. There's this $1,000 iPad that basically can edit a video that a $10,000 Mac Pro cannot. That I think that blew his mind a bit. I think it blew my mind a bit. It was like, that's just insanity. So it's something to do with that codec, and he's saying it's a hardware. It's not something you can update. Possibly, he's saying Canon could do a firmware update to fix it or to allow another option that you can record in other than that 422, maybe a 420. I think there's a 420 and then there's another one above the 422. that are viable options to use, and not just lock it at 422, because it's just too hard for normal computers that don't have those ARM chips in them. If you've got an iPad, you can edit away, but then he said you couldn't send that off, or it was hard to send it off. You can't just send it and process it. You've basically got to edit on here and put it straight up off your iPad. You can't send it off to do anywhere else. So that was a bit annoying, but it was pretty interesting and a bit scary. Not good for the R5. After all the hype, it's an amazing codec and it can do some amazing things. But if no one can use it, and you've got to sit there and make a proxy, it's going to be pretty much annoy the crap out of everyone. I think it was like an hour video. It takes an hour to transcode it into into a proxy that you can then take into your normal computer and use as per normal. So that's not good. I think Canon needs to address that and maybe put a statement out and at least say that they're going to work on something or some way to a workaround so people can use it. So very interesting, because that stuff, that 422 and getting a better color and all that stuff, I'm hoping we get something like that to make the M50 good when it comes out later this year. So that's the stuff we really do want. And anyway, and then last but not least, Qualcomm. Qualcomm's released Quickcharge 5. It's 70% power efficiency increase in this version, and it's 100. It works to up to 100 watts, and it's 50 and 5. They're saying so it'll charge to 50% of your battery in 5 minutes. So if you got a 4500 milliamp battery, you're going to get the 2200, 2250 in 5 minutes flat with this new thing. The processors and everything that Qualcomm's putting into it, obviously they reduced destroying the battery and all that stuff that they worry about with fast charging. Pretty darn awesome. There's a lot of talk about a lot of the different companies getting on board with this and using this Quickcharge 5 sort of as a one-stop. This is what do you call it? So everyone's on the same page. We all use the one system. It seems like it's a really good system, and that's pretty amazing. 50% of your battery. If you're dead flat, 5 minutes later, bang, you got half a battery. That'll get you through the rest of the day. That's pretty darn cool. And that's about it. Home again. Good to be home. Good to see you all again today. I'll see you all again tomorrow, Thursday, for another episode of another day, another vlog. If you haven't seen any videos, get on over and get them. Check them out. If you haven't got your entry in for the prize pack. Don't forget the prize pack. That's drawn 1st of August. Not far away at all. You need to go over to the Dana Caprine Ultimate Test and review in the Canyon. It's an awesome video. It's got all the details on there, what you need to do. And go check that out, and I will see you all again tomorrow. Right, that's it for me. You go finish unpacking, and I'll catch you on tomorrow. Whether you're going that way, I'll see you soon.